AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt!
Shut up, kid. Cassie Spazzali.
Oh, look what you made me do. Look what you made me do.
You so.
I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world.
And Mr. Toby Tom Play. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. David DeLucci in 1 hour. Cam Jordan apparently has a contract offer from the Saints. Didn't we already know that? Both Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore spoke to reporters earlier today at the Saints Hall of Fame golf tournament. We'll let you hear what they said coming up in just a smidge. LSU got swept by Florida this weekend, and they took off on Sunday for Hoover for the SEC tournament. We know they'll play Tuesday night, the fourth game of day one against Oklahoma. A 14-11 matchup. Tigers, it's all single elimination. They got to win 5 games in 6 days. Friday's an off day at the tournament, so they'll have to win Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Ho-hum. Win 5 games, 6 days, boom, you make regionals. Nothing to it, right? We all know the reality facing this LSU team right now, and it's not good. But because this season has gone the way that it has led an earlier pivot of the conversation to next year than normal. Typically at this point, we're talking about what LSU needs to do to sew up a top 8 national seed and what the projections are, who might be coming to the box for regional and so on. And it's just not the case. They're 9-21 in conference play. They have to do the improbable, win the SEC tournament, which they won't. And when they lose, the season will be over, and Jay and everyone will fully go full bore into next year. And as Jay has said, a big part of that is going to be retention. And there's some obvious ones there that we're talking about, all the freshmen that have been super impactful. A sophomore like Aaron Beatty, the freshman that late in the season, Ruckert, Braun, Cerna, Patrick, those 4. It's going to be the core of next year's team, retaining all those guys. They'll go into the portal, find some pitchers, no doubt. But there's also going to be an interesting conversation about Steven Milam. Now, I want to be clear. In a different era, there is no conversation about Steven Milam. In a different era, as a junior, he's gone. He's signing because that's what guys do, because you don't want to lose your leverage. Let me take 60 seconds and explain the MLB draft. I'm going to boil it down, hopefully, to like a third grade level. I know a lot of you understand this, but if you don't, I'll try to do this as simplistically as possible, okay? To be eligible for the draft, you have to be out of high school 3 years or turn 21 before the draft. That's why you hear us talk about draft-eligible sophomores. A sophomore is draft-eligible if they turn 21 before the draft. Derek Curiel turns 21 in May, so he'll be 21. He's draft-eligible sophomore. Every major league team has a bonus pool. It's a pool of money they can spend on signing bonuses for the top 10 round picks. Every pick has an associated value. So, for example, in the 2026 draft, the Pirates have the most money to spend at $19.1 million. The slot value for the first overall pick, which belongs to the White Sox, is $11.3 million. The Rays have the second pick. Slot value is $10.5. The Twins have the third pick. It's 9.7, and it goes down accordingly, okay? If an underclassman is drafted, they have leverage. They can say, well, give me X, or I'm just going to go back to school. And if the team really wants that player, they're more likely to pay them accordingly. If you're a senior and you have no leverage, that's what's called a senior sign. A team will draft a senior knowing I could get away with paying them less because they don't have any leverage. They can't tell me they're going back to school. I'm their only option. I draft them. They have to sign with me for whatever I offer. And so you see senior signs a lot take less money. The change now is with NIL and rev share, players might be able to make as much or more in college than they would as a junior signee. Now, that's not the case for everyone. For example, Derek Curiel, if you look at Derek Curiel's draft projections, okay, like MLB.com has Curiel 15th, Perfect Game has Curiel 35th, D1 has Curiel 27th, Baseball America has Curiel 9th. So as high as 9, which the slot value, for 9 is the Braves at $6.6 million. The low end, Perfect Game has him 35th. The slot value there, that's Yankees at 2.8. So basically, Curiel's somewhere in the $3 to $6 million range. He gone, right? There's nothing LSU can do, NIL rev share wise, to match what a major league team is going to give Derek Curiel in his slot value or in his bonus. So he's gone. Steven Milam is a different conversation, however. Now, Saturday, the LSU fans were chanting one more year at Steven Milam. And after the game, Jay Johnson was asked about the fans chanting Steven Milam, one more year, and if he might come back. This is what Jay said.
He loves it here. Like, he loves it here. That's the one thing we have going for us. It's just like, I don't think 30 teams are going to mess it up. Somebody's going to give him $2 million. So it just, I appreciate that. And, it is, he's a great player and love him. Kind of one of those guys you can't picture not having him. And we've been fortunate to have a few of those guys here in my time. But, that'd be great. But just knowing the side of this thing, like, what do you have, 3 errors on the season, something like that, 10 homers? Do a search. There's going to be one name that comes up on that.
So Jay's saying that Milam's going to get $2 million. If you look at the bonus pool, the slot values, that basically means he thinks he's going to be a top 50 pick. Okay, so the 50th pick is the Cardinals. The slot value is $1.982 million. The 49th pick is the Rays at $2.03 million. So basically, Jay is saying Milam's going to be a top 50 pick. Okay. MLB.com ranks the top 150 prospects in this draft. Milam is not on their list in the top 150. Baseball America ranks the top 150. Milam is number 132. Perfect Game has Milam 70th. That's the highest of any of these outlets. For what it's worth, the 70th pick belongs to the Reds. That's $1.2 million. If Milam goes to the Reds or at the 70th pick at 1.2, he needs to sign. He will and should be gone. If he falls at 132, that's the last pick of round 4. That's the Dodgers, and it's $575K. Based on conversations I've had, I believe LSU could put together a $500,000 package for Steven Milam to return next year. I honestly don't think that would be very difficult to do. Pass the hat. Hey, go talk to the biggest LSU baseball boosters. Hey, we got a shot to get Milam back. Can you help? What? Really? What do you need? Okay. It would go like that. So there's a number. There's a range where if Milam falls, it might make sense. Now, Jay says someone's going to give him $2 million. And someone might. Someone might. But the reality, Steven Milam's, I think he's listed at 5'8", but let's be real. You don't see many guys that size in Major League Baseball. It's just the reality. Most teams have shortstops that are 6'2", that hit with power. That's not Steven Milam. That's never going to be Steven Milam. He is an incredible defensive shortstop. I believe he'll be a utility infielder at the next level, and I think has a great shot to play in the major leagues. Teams draft, though, on projectability. And if you're going to give someone a 7-figure signing bonus, you're generally projecting them as future starters at the major league level. Because of his projectability, there are probably teams that have a lower ceiling on Milam. That doesn't take away at all the outstanding player he is at LSU, and a guy that, again, I think, look, Terrio sat here and said the same. I think Steven Milam's going to play Major League Baseball. And it would not surprise me a lick. And there have been great defensive infielders that didn't. I mean, Omar Vizquel is a great example of that. Maybe I'm aging myself a little bit, but Vizquel was a dynamic defensive infielder for the Indians and didn't hit a lick, but he was a great defender. And Milam can hit, but you also don't typically see players his size, right? Not his fault. It's just the reality. Again, Major League Draft is different because they look at projectability. And Milam, because of his size, is going to have a lower ceiling. You just don't see prospects his size. Jose Altuve is probably the exception in the game right now. So all that to say, is Jay right that there could be a team that loves Steven Milam, gets aggressive, makes him a 7-figure offer, and he goes? That could absolutely happen. It takes one. You hear that all the time. It just takes one team. Flip side of it is, a lot of scouts that I talk to project Steven Milam as around 5'6" guy. And if that's the case, now you're talking about $500,000. And that's something I believe LSU could be competitive in offering Milam. Terrio was here on Friday with us. If you missed that conversation, I think he explained it very well. This isn't from me. This is a guy who was a third-round pick, played shortstop at LSU, spent a decade in Major League Baseball. And his point was, you don't get rich in the draft. The objective is get to Major League Baseball, start your clock, and get to your second contract where you actually get paid. If you leave as a junior, you're going to start in rookie ball. If you come back for your senior year, when you're finished, you're likely going to start in AA. So when you start that 2028 season, you'd be at the same spot professionally in your career. You'd be in AA. The difference is you'd play 27 in the SEC, and you'd spend 27 riding a bus in A-ball. Which do you want to do? That used to be an easy decision because it was the only way you could get your signing bonus was to leave early. Now you can get that money in NIL rev share. Again, I don't know that I have like this strong feeling that Milam is coming back. Like, I'm not telling you that, okay? Don't misunderstand. I'm not sitting here telling you he's coming back, he's coming back, he's coming back. What I am telling you is it is a very different conversation about a guy like Milam today than it ever would have been in the past. Like, there is no conversation about Derek Curiel. He's going to get, we just went through the numbers. He's going to get somewhere in the, depending on how high, $3 to $6 million. He's going to sign, and he should be gone. That is the smart thing to do. Take your money. God bless. Thank you for an amazing season, 2 seasons, winning a national championship, and LSU fans will cheer for you forever. Jake Brown is an interesting one as well. The same, outlets have talked about. MLB.com has Brown 45th. Perfect Game actually rates Brown higher than Curiel. D1 Baseball has Curiel 27th. Has Brown 40th. And Baseball America has Brown 41st. So a 40s pick is where Jake Brown is projected. You're getting picked in the 40s, you're talking about making a couple of $1 million. And if that's the case for Jake Brown, he should go as well. And will likely go as well. Now, could he come back and then be a top 10 pick? Maybe. Do you want to run the risk? I don't know that he wants to do that. But that's a decision he could make. I think that's highly, highly unlikely. Milam is the one. Milam's the one to focus on to say, there's a shot. If he starts to slide a little bit and those bonus pool numbers start hovering in the $500,000 range, there's a really compelling case for him to come back to LSU for his senior year. So one to follow as we get closer to July. All right, it's After Further Review. We're glad you're with us. We're brought to you by Parish Restoration, parishrestoration.com. Mold remediation done right the first time. That's Parish Restoration and parishrestoration.com. Tell you all the time, they'll come spray their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. It's Parish Restoration. Home, any type of office, commercial building, school, church, doctor's office. Maybe you got odor from a gym, a workout facility, that sweat odor, easy. Call Parrish. So come in, spray, close up all the doors and windows. As soon as the fog dissipates, boom, you're back in free, clean, clear, sanitized, smelling great. Parrish Restoration, parrishrestoration.com, parrishrestoration.com. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Thanks for hanging out with us here on this Monday. Adam Rittenberg in 15 minutes from right now from ESPN covers college football and with a primary focus on the Big Ten. Big Ten spring meetings going on, and there's a heavy push from the Big Ten coaches now for a 24-team playoff. Why, and why are they being so vocal now? We're going to get to that with Adam Rittenberg in about 15 minutes. When we come back, Cam Jordan has a contract offer. Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore talked about it at the Saints Hall of Fame golf tournament today. You'll hear about it next. It's AFR.
AFR.
Get Gordon. Get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Tell you every day if you've been injured in an accident and it's not your fault, do what injured people in our state have done for 3 decades. Get Gordon and get it done. Always encourage you to go to the website. It's getgordon.com, getgordon.com, getgordon.com. Let's be real. I mean, Gordon does such an amazing job of branding. By now, you should know getgordon.com. Getgordon.com. You can go to the website. You can see the types of cases that they handle. You can see claims from and settlements from past and testimonials from past clients. It's getgordon.com, getgordon.com. You can also follow on all of their social media accounts. Great 5-star review of from Tisha of Katie, her attorney on Gordon's team. Said, I don't write reviews often. Want to let everyone know how great my experience was with Katie and Gordon's team. Made me feel welcome, answered all my questions without pretension like other law firms. I felt like family and would recommend her 10 out of 10. Get Gordon. Get it done.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore both met with reporters on Monday at the Saints Hall of Fame golf tournament. And naturally, big part of the conversation was about some of these veterans and what their futures may be, primarily focusing on 3. It's Cam Jordan, Alvin Kamara, and Taysom Hill. Mickey Loomis was asked about Cam and Taysom.
Do they both have contract offers from you?
Cam certainly does. Taysom does not.
So, sorry, was that 4 or 5? No, I wanted 4. You play 4.
Does it become unlikely as you get this far into the offseason?
No, I don't think so. It's look, those guys, have earned the right for self-determination, right? So we're not going to put any deadlines on anything.
I think the thing that's getting the most attention today is Mickey Loomis saying Cam has a contract offer, Taysom does not. The Taysom thing I don't think is surprising in any way. And I get asked often, hey, could such and such be the next Taysom Hill? The answer is no. Because when you think about it, just intellectually, who else in the NFL has a Taysom Hill? Nobody. Because it's that atypical what Taysom does. And I know it's a copycat league, but Taysom's been around for almost a decade now in that role, and nobody else does it because he is a rare player in this era that can do it. But you also have to have a coach like Sean Payton who knows what to do with that. I mean, that was a Sean Payton brainchild. And then Pete Carmichael obviously was here, and Taysom was under contract. But now you have a new coaching staff that has never used a player like that before and doesn't have a great desire to use a player like that, clearly because they had Taysom Hill coming off of injury, limited physically, great leader, all the stuff. Everyone loves Taysom. But it's a coaching staff that it looked so forced last year when Taysom Hill was in the game. That's why he had his least productive year, coming off a serious knee injury, playing for a coach that didn't know how to use him. So if Taysom maybe is healthier and wants to continue his career, maybe Denver or reunion with Sean Payton would make sense. But more than likely, his career is probably, he's probably played his last game in the NFL. So that one's not surprising. I also think it's not surprising that Cam Jordan has a contract offer from the Saints. Go back and listen to what Cam Jordan said in the interview with Teron Armstead. Remember, this was back in March. He did an interview with Teron Armstead. It was it's actually, I think it was April. It was just a few weeks ago. Cam Jordan was doing an interview on Teron Armstead's podcast and talked about the possibility of return.
If things that don't add up to what I consider as value happen, I understand the business nature of it all. You know, in my mind, I'm like, of course, you know, you see guys my age re-sign to the team because that's the only team that they've ever been with, and you're like, hell yeah, we love that. But that's to his situation. That may not be to my situation. As football players, we only control what we can control. So as much as I'd be like, hell yeah, I want them to love me just like I love them. Sometimes, you know, the business side of that makes you feel emotional. You got to be able to take your emotions out of it. So of course I'd love to be in New Orleans. And at the same time, hey, if the sense doesn't make sense, you know, we got to find our own path.
If the sense doesn't make sense. Like, what he's saying there, like, think about that again. What he's saying isn't, they don't want me, they haven't offered me. He said, if the sense, C-E-N-T-S, doesn't make sense, S-E-N-S-E. He said, the money doesn't make sense. So it's not saying that they don't want me, they haven't offered me. He's saying is what they're offering isn't enough. And we've talked about this plenty. Like, I don't think there's much new here with this. It's just Mickey confirming what we've talked about plenty, which is the fact that Cam, very clearly, who was on a incentive-laden contract this past year, has 10.5 sacks, wants more guarantees. He very likely wants a deal like DeMario Davis got with the Jets, a multi-year deal with guaranteed money. And it does not make a lick of sense. I'm going to say this again. It does not make a lick of sense for the New Orleans Saints to give Cameron Jordan a multi-year guaranteed deal. I love Cam Jordan. You love Cam Jordan. He will go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He will be in the Saints Ring of Honor. He is one of the greatest players in the history of this organization. For his contributions, we will all be forever grateful, and we will cheer him forever. If you're the general manager of the Saints, you're not giving players contracts based on what they did in the past. You're giving them contracts based on what you are projecting they will do over the life of that contract. And Cameron Jordan, when you look, and again, he's a durable player, but his snap counts have effectively been cut in half. And if you start with the 2023 season, he's gone from 12.5 sacks in 12.5 in 2021 to 8.5 to 2 to 4 to then 10.5 this year, which speaks to an outlier. In the last 5 years, you had seen a regression every single year for Cam for 4 straight seasons until this year where he had a bounce back. It's hard for me to believe that's sustainable. That's the outlier. That's the exception, not the rule. So if you're the Saints, you're not going to go invest a multi-year deal in an aging, declining player. I don't know how many more ways we could say this. I love Cam. You love Cam. We all love Cam. And the fact is, the rest of the NFL, the market is speaking. He doesn't have an offer, a multi-year offer from anybody else. If he did, he would have signed it already. Maybe he waits until camp, there's an injury, there's a desperate team, they pay him what he wants. And if that's what he wants to do, okay. But it may come to pass that Cam Jordan's best option is his only option. And that's to sign a deal to return to New Orleans on an incentive-laden one-year deal like he just played. And if you're the Saints, you'll absolutely bring Cam Jordan back on an incentive-laden one-year deal. But that may not be something he's interested in. If it's not, his time in New Orleans may well be over. All right, it's after further review. We're brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020, 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com. You want to see 2020, call 924-2020. You know, I tell you all the time about Dr. Blake Williamson and how he's really at the forefront of ophthalmology. Like, I can tell you that. Sometimes it's better to show you that. So Dr. Blake was recently at the Young MD conference in Austin, Texas, where he was the chairman of that group this year. So there's social media posts on the Williamson Eye Center socials if you want to go check it out. There's Dr. Blake Williamson presenting and running this conference as the chairman. The point is, Dr. Blake, who practices right here in Baton Rouge, goes all over the country and all over the world lecturing and teaching some of the foremost advances in ophthalmology because he's at the forefront of it. We're just very fortunate to have him here in Baton Rouge. Williamson Eye Center has locations all over Greater Baton Rouge, so you can find the location nearest you. Schedule your appointment today at WilliamsonEye.com. That's WilliamsonEye.com. Call 924-2020, 924-2020, or go to williamsoni.com, williamsoneye.com. All right, y'all, just after further review, we're about halfway home here on a Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let me knock out a quick break. David DeLucci in 30 minutes. When we come back, Adam Rittenberg, ESPN.com, will be here. Covers college football, primarily the Big Ten. The Big Ten spring meetings going on where there is a very clear push by the Big Ten brass and coaches for a 24-team college football playoff. We'll explain not only why they want 24, but why they're being so vocal now. We'll do that next on AFR.
AFR.
All right, y'all. The summer heat up is here. 89 degrees with a high of 90 in Baton Rouge today. We are starting to hit those 90-degree temps with the heat index climbing. I love this time of year. You can keep your jacket weather. I'm not interested. I want swimsuit and pool and warm weather. But with that comes a real tax on your home central AC. You know that. When it's 100 degrees outside, that thing is running round the clock. Make sure your AC is ready for these warm weather months. I mean, remember, that unit sits on the side of your house, and it never gets a break. From oppressive triple-digit heat, bugs, dust, dander, humidity, everything. Make sure it's clean, tuned up, running efficiently, so it can keep your home and your family cool all summer long. River City's 1 hour air, 752-0001.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
Inject some truth serum in anybody that covers the Big Ten, and to tell you the best part about USC and UCLA coming into the Big Ten, they get to have their spring meetings in Rancho Palos Verdes, California. Probably a little bit different than, I don't know, Gary, Indiana this time of year. Adam Rittenberg is out there in California for Big Ten meetings, and he's good enough to hang out with us here for a couple minutes. Hey, Adam, thanks for the time, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. You might hear some birds chirping or overlooking the Pacific. There's certainly worse places to be right now. Not to make you feel bad. I hope it's beautiful in Baton Rouge as well.
No, Baton Rouge is fine. It's sunny and 90 degrees, and that's fine. I'm going to be on a plane out to Arizona later this week, so eat your heart out for that as well. Okay, let's first talk about what is primarily on the agenda this week. I would assume it starts with the college football playoff, but 10,000-foot view, what are they doing this week?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. I mean, it's that. It's certainly some of the legislation that may or may not come through in Washington. It's the CFP and seeing if that's something that is operating the way that people want it to operate. You know, the football coaches are supposed to wrap up their meetings tomorrow. I haven't seen a ton of them so far, so I haven't been able to talk. I've seen a few athletic directors here and there, and those basketball coaches are around. So, you know, it's a pretty full agenda, and that's, pretty standard for Tony Petitti in the Big Ten. They want to get a lot on the table, so it's not just the playoff, even though they understand that that's what everyone is talking about on the outside, and certainly the topic that impacts the most college football fans. But there's other things as well going on.
All right, let's start then with the playoff, because as you mentioned, that is the topic that probably interests the most college football fans. Why is the Big Ten so bullish on 24?
Well, if you remember a year ago, the Big Ten was bullish on 16, but having AQs, and that seemed to be something that other conferences were, at least the SEC initially was interested in, and then the tenor sort of changed at the SEC meetings down in Destin, which followed the Big Ten meetings, and so Tony Petitti's a guy that comes up with a lot of ideas, and maybe fairly or unfairly gets labeled the ideas guy, but they came up with this other idea to essentially, bring more teams into the playoff conversation. I think the thing that Tony struggles with coming from the pro sports world is how many teams are eliminated from that postseason conversation because of how small the postseason is. And so, I think, again, if there was more agreement around the AQ model, you would have basically a playoff within your conference to get into those spots, which is something the Big Ten was interested in. But with that door seemingly closed, they're now looking at just a larger playoff in general. Although, again, one thing to keep in mind was just how skeptical Tony Petitti was of the selection committee and, who they were putting in and some of the metrics that were being used. He does not want this to be a selection committee driven process. And I think that's why they had the AQ model. And, with that, seemingly dead right now, there's a lot more support around 24 because obviously the Big Ten would be well represented in that model, as would the SEC.
It's interesting, too, Adam Rittenberg is our guest, because it's not just the Big Ten, but the Big 12, the ACC, they're in line with 24 as well, and the SEC is over on the island by themselves, which feels, Adam, almost like an about face from what we typically experience, which is the SEC's kind of been the bully that gets its way. Why are we seeing this? Do you see it that way? And why are we seeing this sea change?
Well, I think it's because the sport's changed, right? And, I think there's more opportunity to compete nationally, now than maybe there has been in at least in my lifetime, in our lifetime, because you have Indiana sitting there as a national champion. You have Miami that finally made it to the playoff and advanced all the way to the national title game. You had so many other teams that were on the cusp of making the playoff that were just left out. BYU has been really close, for example. And so, if you're sitting there in the Big 12 and the ACC, you didn't want the AQ model because it was very clear that you were a lesser conference. But a 2014 system, hey, we could have 4 teams in a good year, maybe even more, or at least have more than one on a regular basis. And so, I think that's maybe the appeal for conferences like that, to provide hope. That was a word that was used, I think, last week at the ACC spring meetings, and something that I know is similarly felt around the Big 12. That hey, with 16, but certainly with 24, there is a little bit more hope than there is in the current model when it's so dominated by the Big Ten and the SEC. And honestly, the way that Notre Dame is tracking, I don't think there's going to be very many 12-team playoffs in the future that don't include Notre Dame. So that's another spot that's getting taken out.
Your colleague at ESPN, Pete Thamel, has a piece up that not only speaks about the Big Ten lobbying for a 24-team playoff, but doing so in a vocal manner, talking about why it was important for them to be so vocal in their support of this. You've covered that league in college football for a long time. Do you see that?
Well, I think it is important for the Big Ten to be vocal. And this is the first time in quite some time that the Big Ten is truly operating from a position of strength. And you mentioned the SEC bullying others around. A lot of that because they ran the sport in terms of the results. That's not the case anymore. The Big Ten is now, at least from a championship perspective, the top conference. And, they have taken a much more reserved approach in terms of lobbying over the years. Really, since Jim Delaney, the commissioner, stepped down, he was a little bit more out in front, like Greg Sankey was, and still is. Whereas Kevin Warren and Tony Petitti in particular, you hardly ever hear from Tony Petitti publicly. So I think this week's meeting is a little bit different from the last two that the Big Ten had, where there really weren't any media here. There weren't a lot of interviews being done. There wasn't a lot of lobbying, and I don't know if there'll be that this week, but at least there's an openness to it that maybe wasn't present a few years ago when the Big Ten wasn't winning the national championship very often.
Adam Rittenberg is our guest, ESPN, Big Ten meetings going on. So aside from the college football playoff, what else is sort of topping the list there in the conversation?
Well, yeah, I was talking with Martin Jarman, the UCLA athletic director, just now, and he was just saying that they're trying. There's still this feeling of a chaos in the sport, and trying to figure out, what are all the rules that we're supposed to be playing by. What's going to happen with eligibility? What's going to happen with some of the other, kind of bigger picture topics? And it seems like there's a new bill, in Congress, at least being talked about almost every day. So, yeah, it is. They obviously have to look at things beyond the playoff and beyond the sport of football. And I think those are some of the things that they're talking about. But there's a recognition, certainly that, with the popularity of football and with the strength that the Big Ten has had in that sport, that a lot of their attention has to go towards some of the things that we're talking about.
Yeah. It's never boring, and college football is obviously finding a way, almost like the NFL, Adam, to become a 12-month sport, or at least sort of mirror that. Do you see, last thing, do you see a timeline for any of these decisions in this offseason?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think with the playoff, it'll be. I just remember being on a Big Ten campus. This was last year, right after the SEC meeting, and I won't burn the AD that said this, but I'll give him credit that person was saying this thing is not going to expand because there was such disagreement from where the Big Ten was, and then the 10 are coming out of SEC meetings. So obviously, there's not as much of a mystery about where the Big Ten sits in terms of its preference, or at least support for a future playoff model. It's why I think the meetings next week in Destin are going to be maybe even more important to see where the SEC truly sits. Is it hey, we're going to stand put at 16? If that's the case, I think the 12-team playoff isn't going anywhere. Or are they really inching closer to supporting a larger model, a 24-team model, which was laughed off when it was originally reported, and has obviously gotten some support from quite a few corners of the sport, including some in the SEC. So, not to say this week doesn't matter with the Big Ten, but we kind of know where the league is. And the one thing that Tony Petitti has done during his time as commissioner, even though I think he's somewhat controversial in the media, doesn't do a lot of media, he's very good at rallying support within his conference and explaining the process, whether it's the playoff, whether it's something in Congress, whether it's the CSC. I was talking with a league official just now about how he just lays that out to his coaches and his athletic directors in a way that they can absorb it. So these are usually very successful meetings, but in terms of news, I would expect more coming out of where the SEC lands as far as the playoffs.
Enjoy the low humidity and the beautiful sunsets.
I'll find a way. It's there's certainly tougher places to be for a couple of days, but appreciate you having me on.
It's Adam Rittenberg from ESPN. Thanks, Adam. All right. He's on Twitter at ESPN Rittenberg if you want to give him a follow. Rancho Palos Verdes. I mean, the Big Ten, right? State College, Pennsylvania. Bloomington, Indiana. West Lafayette, Indiana. Ann Arbor, Michigan. East Lansing, Michigan. Columbus, Ohio. Palos Ranchos Verdes, California. Yep. Did I get that right? Or is it Ranchos Palos?
You mixed it up. It's Ranchos Palos Verdes.
It doesn't matter.
It's beautiful.
Let's be honest.
Huh?
It's the Pacific Ocean. It's golden sunsets. It's low humidity. It's picturesque beauty from every turn. It is nothing symbolic of the Big Ten. That's so good. I remember a few years back when, what was that guy's name? The Pac-10 commissioner, Scott. He was terrible. God bless him. What was his name? Scott. Something Scott. Tim Scott? Paul Scott? Scott. You got it?
I'm trying.
He was the
Larry Scott.
Larry Scott.
Larry
I knew it was Scott. Larry Scott. And it was a boring first name, Scott.
Just a generic name.
Larry Scott. I was on it. I was close. He was an atrocious commissioner. Basically, he's the one who got that league killed. The Big 12 managed to preserve itself. The Pac-12 died because Larry Scott was terrible. But one thing Larry Scott did was he moved Pac-12 media days to New York City. And the idea was there's very little East Coast coverage of the West Coast schools, so let's bring our product there. Which I guess in theory maybe makes sense, but you left all the things that are your inherent advantage and went to New York City, where you going there isn't going to make them care any more about you than they did when you were, because there's always things going on in New York City. Sometimes got to be you. All right, it's after further review. All right, Musil do Tigers and the pros to wrap up hour number 2 here in just a smidge. Remember, success takes a team, not just on the field. At FMOL Health, That team is more than 20,000 strong, delivering care across Louisiana and Mississippi as one connected, mission-driven health system. As a $5 billion health system with nationally recognized quality and not one but two exceptional workplace awards from Gallup, FMOL Health has built something people trust and continues to grow to meet the needs of the communities they serve. And when LSU needed to care for its student-athletes, they chose Our Lady of the Lake as its championship health partner. That tells you everything you need to know, because that same level of care isn't just for athletes. It's for you, your family, and communities across the region. It's bigger than sports. It's about having a health system you can count on. FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake, and LSU. Together, we roar. Learn more at olrmc.com/LSU. Okay, y'all, we'll put a button here on hour number one. We'll come back and use to do Tigers and the Pros. David DeLucci will kick off hour three. We'll preview the SEC tournament, LSU's path to and through Hoover. We'll get to all that here in a smidge. Thanks for being with us. Stick around. It's AFR.
AFR.
Remember, every day when we tell you about Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, it's about feeling your best and living your optimal life. What does that mean? Well, you know the whole story about the frog in the boiling pot of water? Like, you just slowly turn up the temperature, and before you know it, the frog's cooked. Well, the way we age is similar in the opposite direction. We gradually, every one of us, our bodies produce less of the hormones that contribute to how we feel. And it just becomes the normal feeling for us. We don't realize how bad we feel until we start feeling good again. A simple blood test can let you know if you're a candidate for hormone replacement therapy. At Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, they have the lowest prices, never any contracts. There's no membership fees. If you're on HRT and you're paying a membership fee, you need to go look into Goodwood to begin with. YourGoodwood.com, YourGoodwood.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And oh, we do shutters too.
Wrapping up hour number two, we always appreciate Brandon Holly and the gang over at Relief Windows. They're just the best. Make your home more energy efficient, beautify the exterior, increase your resale value. It's Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com. Thanks to Jake Madison, who was here in hour number one. Talk a little bit about the Pels hiring Jamal Mosley. If you missed that conversation, you can catch it on demand. Thanks to Adam Rittenberg, who was just here a bit as well. David DeLucci in about 10 minutes from right now, preview the SEC tournament. But right now, Musso has Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
It is a rough Sunday afternoon for Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Skeens suffers his third loss of the season. 5 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned, walked the batter. That was his first walk in over a month. He did punch out 7, give up a homer. That came against Bryce Harper, and the Pirates lost 6-0. Kevin Gausman fared much better against the Detroit Tigers. 6 innings, shutout ball, 4 hits, didn't walk a soul, and punched out 5 of them. Third win of the year for Gausman. Brings his record to 500 now at 3-3. Couple Tigers in action against each other. Alex Bregman, Chicago Cubs, took on the Chicago White Sox there. 2 for 5 for Bregman on the Sunday game. Both of those singles drove in 2 runs as well, and he would come around to score twice in the ball game as well. Grant Taylor, of course, towed the rubber there for the White Sox in relief. 2 shutout innings, did not allow a hit, did not walk anybody, and punched out 1, so he was perfect. ERA now sub-2 there for Grant Taylor. Quick note here on Jake Fraley. He has been placed on the 10-day injured list. That is due to a hernia. He was scratched from the Rays lineup on Saturday. All of that courtesy of Mark Tompkin of the Tampa Bay Times. Now, he will obviously sit here for 10 days. That move retroactive to May 16th. The WNBA is in full swing. Angel Reese and the Atlanta Dream, they fell to the Vegas Aces. 9 points, 8 boards for Reese in the game. Did add 3 assists. Had trouble holding on to the ball, though. 8 turnovers. And lastly, Kayshon Boutte is not participating in off-season workouts for the Patriots. He's choosing to work on his own. That's Tigers and Pros.
Presented by Evermore, EVAMOR. Evermore.com, Evermore.com, Evermore.com. Always got my bottle of Evermore with me here on the set. Drink it all day. Tell you all the time. 20 ounce, 32 ounce, or 64 ounce. I like to buy the 4-pack of 64 ounce bottles available at retailers all over town. What town? Doesn't matter. They have national distribution, even though they're based out of Covington. They're on the North Shore. They have national distribution. So if you go to the website, evermore.com, hit the little menu tab at the top, and you can hit the Find a Store locator, type in your zip code, and boom, it'll pull up all the stores nearest you. So take a photo of your Evermore wherever you see. I love getting photos in the wild of Evermore. So take a photo, text it to me, tweet it at me, DM me, whatever you do. Make sure you support a great Louisiana company and drink a healthier product, Evermore. EVAMOR, evermore.com, evermore.com. All right, y'all. LSU's path to the postseason begins on Tuesday in Hoover as they take on Oklahoma. David DeLucci's here with us to preview it next.
AFR.
As we wrap up hour number 2, I do want to remind you about Arco Power Systems. What an awesome company Arco is. Man, they are a local Louisiana company that has grown to be such an impressive company in size and scale and scope. At Arco Power Systems, what they do is really simple to explain. You know about like standby generators people have for their house? They do that for your business. So if you're a business owner, you have a industrial or commercial facility, your business, or a church, a school, a government building, municipalities, doctors' offices, hospitals, banks, grocery stores, gas stations, whatever. Any type of business. You need a generator for your business, Arco Power Systems. And they're not just in Baton Rouge. All over Louisiana, east to Mobile, west to San Antonio, north to Little Rock, Houston, Dallas, Austin, everywhere. It's Arco Power Systems. ARCCO, arco.com, arco.com.